All right, good morning. Welcome in week one college football. Mississippi State will host Southeast Louisiana. And this is, I think it's Zach Arnett's debut. I understand that he coached the bowl game, and he and everybody around him, including, Dr. Keenum and everybody involved, did an amazing job to get those players, in some kind of right frame of mind to play the game. But Zach Arnett, first-year head coach, first game in the first season, and this league is not kind to first-year head coaches. And I do want y'all to take note that the league, I know we're not going to have the East and the West after this year, but the league totally changed in the last few months or year, however you want to say it. And here's what happened. LSU now has an adult as their head coach. Not good for State and Ole Miss. A&M now has a big-time play caller, Bobby Petrino, and he is calling plays. He is. Now, how it'll go all season, I don't know, but he is calling plays and has been. And then 3, like him or not, Hugh Freeze can flat out call plays. So it's a totally different game than just a few months ago, much less a year ago. All right. So we welcome in Steve Robertson, genespage.com, the Boneyard Podcast. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Steve, can you tell us something intriguing? I mean, I know we've gone through almost 4 weeks of practice and the ebb and flow and back and forth of all that. Is there anything that you're looking at going into week one? I don't mean about the game. They should win by 100. But like that, you're like, man, I'm really looking forward to seeing this because of X.
Well, I'm curious to see how much you're going to run football. And obviously against an FCS opponent, you're going to be largely vanilla. But philosophically, it's like, hey, you run some of your base stuff. But I'm just curious to see how much the play calling changes under Barbay. We know that there is pretty dramatic change schematically with alignment and things like that. Of course, some concepts of the air raid continue, but it's going to be a change. But I'm curious to see what kind of balance they show, and just really just kind of what the team looks like. Now, I've got a longtime source that has probably watched more Mississippi State football practices in the last decade than anybody, and saw him a couple of days ago, and I said, "What do you think?" And he said, "Well, I like what I see." And I said, "Well, that's big words coming from you." And he goes, "Yeah, because I've never said that to you." And I think that's an important aspect of this too, is that there's just so much of the unknown with all of this. And, the defense, we know we expect them to be salty. We feel like, especially the linebacker group, can be really, really good. But, what's this running game going to look like? And what you got in Woody Marks. I mean, do you play 4 or 5 running backs on Saturday just to get some guys some reps? I mean, ordinarily you wouldn't play this game, week one. So it's not like you're saving guys for next week, but you'd like to get some film with some of these younger guys. I'm just curious how much of those guys play and how much they run football.
Okay, what would you like to – I mean, Marks, you know what you have. Yeah, he wants to run a little bit, break a sweat, probably rip off a big run, maybe even score a touchdown. But quite frankly, in the grand scheme of things, who cares? I mean, does he get about 7 or 8 touches and then you go – with these guys that people, and I don't know if all of them are going to be SEC worthy. I tend to be very, very cautiously optimistic, and a realist. But how about this? Over under, where would you go with Marks as far as touches?
I don't know, maybe 10. I mean, I certainly don't want to see him in the second half. You know what I mean? It's like, especially with, all this discussion about, what you've seen from Simeon Price and Jeffrey Pittman and Kevon Lee and then Seth Davis, there's just no need, to play Woody Marks deep into this ball game, and hopefully the game goes the way you expect it to. But, I remember there's a radio show host in Mississippi that I have some interaction with. It said several years ago on Twitter, you get through halftime, okay, let's put our feet up and watch the kids play, and so – and that guy was you, obviously, but that's kind of how I see these games. It's like, get your guys in there, get a lead, get them out.
Right.
Get some from the younger guys, save some wear and tear for later in the year, And so Yeah, I mean, yeah, Woody may see a little more than that, but past the first drive in the third quarter, I don't want to see anybody that the casual fan knows their name on recall. I don't want to see that guy.
I couldn't agree more. Steve Robertson, Gene's Page, 247 Sports. His board has been heated up and ready as they go into week one of the football season. Zach Arnett as the head coach. Barbay. Everybody's talking about the Mississippi State offense. What will it look like? Will it transition? How long will it take to get up and running? And trying to balance that with a quarterback who's played a ton of football. So a lot of people are hedging that they can expedite that process because Will has played so much football. What are you hearing about? Tell me anything you can tell me about the tight end position the last 4 weeks.
Well, I mean, obviously they're not going to tell us if things are going poorly, but the one thing that Zach Arnett and Barbay have both mentioned is drops at the tight end position, and Ryland Godet, if memory serves me correct, he has not caught a football in a college football game in 4 years of service, and so Jaquarius Spivey obviously was a jumbo X at Mississippi State, so he's got some ability, and I've seen Antonio Harmon do a few things, but the way they want to utilize this position, I mean, obviously you've had to rebuild the room from scratch, and the portal helps because you're able to add 2 super seniors to come in there and play. But, I don't like hearing they're dropping the football because, I mean, you basically are making a big shift, and you want to use those guys as additional blockers, but they have to be weapons in the passing game to keep people honest. And that's something, I guess, that I'm concerned about. But the reality of it is you've got some guys who played a lot of snaps, just hadn't played them here, and so hopefully you can kind of get some chemistry built up with those guys. I know the offensive linemen, I've asked them all as we spoke to them, they're excited about having that extra blocker out there, especially those tacklers. And offensive line guys want to run the football. I mean, they really don't want to get back on their heels and pass block. They have to, but, what you really want to do is fire off the football and kind of win that war of attrition. And I think, having that extra blocker, of course, kind of sets up some massive matchups that are advantageous for the offense.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, they like getting downhill on people. And that's the thing, too. We talk about, Nick Jones and Dollar Bill Johnson and Percy Lewis all kind of, cross-training for those 2 left-side positions. Can you imagine late in the ball game, Percy Lewis and Dollar Bill Johnson running behind those guys and just, plowing people in the ground? I mean, that's something you wouldn't have seen, the last 3 years.
No, it's a double-edged sword. I had an NFL scout and we were out at the NFL draft when Charles Cross was taken, but I had an NFL scout say, all the reps that Cross got in pass blocking was such a valuable, tremendous asset for him as far as because of the air raid, because of his growth, Steve. So it's I go back and forth on that, but I get what you're saying. I definitely understand that offensive linemen like to go downhill rather than always in pass blocking situations. Steve Robertson, the Boneyard Podcast on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. This interview is brought to you by the amazing bacon cheeseburgers at Bulldog Burger in Ridgeland, Starkville, and Tupelo. Bulldog Burger will be happening this weekend in Starkville, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay, I've asked you before, but, it's been a few weeks. I'm going to harp on it because Justin Robinson can have a big year. The question is, can he get it right between the years, and does he have enough dog in him? What have you heard about his fall/120-degree camp?
Well, he's been kind of limited as of late with an ankle injury. It's not expected to be a long-term thing, but I don't know if he plays Saturday. I know he'd love to play Saturday. I don't know if he's capable of playing Saturday. And, there's no need to play him Saturday if he's not 100%. But as far as, long-term, yeah, I like what I've seen from the guy because, number one, you think about, too, the fact he's going to see so much more man-to-man coverage this year. It's not going to be go out there and, do a 8-yard curl and then fight for the first down. He's going to be able to get out there and throw the ball up for him a little bit. And so, and you mentioned Will Rogers, a guy that obviously knows a lot about ball placement. But, yeah, I think so. But, honestly, I think the big mark with receivers is just, too loose sliding inside and getting Xavier Thomas on the field.
Sure.
I mean, it's like Justin Robinson. Yeah, we expect him to have a big year, but you don't you don't have to have him to have the big year. You know what I'm saying? He could just have a good year, and you could have a great year. And I think a lot of it's just knowing to get guys in the right position. And I think Chad Bumpus was a tremendous hire, and not just because of the fact he's one of our own, but this is a guy that has played in the slot in the Southeastern Conference. And I think Tulu Griffin really benefits from that insight. I mean, to have that guy that knows what it takes to do it at a high level in this league as your coach, that's significant.
How comfortable do you think Will Rogers is in the new offense?
Well, I've talked to him on and off the record, and the main thing he was this summer is just kind of getting everybody else up to speed on terminology and things like that. I mean, I think Will benefits so much from being a coach's kid. I mean, it's like he has seen so many of these concepts already, his whole life, and now he's playing in these things. But the reality of it is other than, maybe making some side adjustments and kind of figuring out how people are going to attack you from a pass rush because of the different alignments, I think it's been a pretty easy transition for Will. And it helps being smart. That's one thing we almost underscore sometimes with Will Rogers. I mean, people look at the numbers and they think, he's done some big things. Will is extremely intelligent. And not to mention, you got some veteran guys around you, so you don't have to spend a whole lot of time kind of pulling those guys along. I mean, you got 5 offensive linemen that have got, several snaps of SEC play under their belt. And so that aspect of it's really, really good. But, I'm very comfortable what Will's going to do. And I think in many ways, a lot of the burden of the offense has been lifted from his shoulders. I think in the past, so much of it was on Will. And he handled it pretty well at times. And other times he didn't. But I think now with the fact that he's not going to see so much drop eight and too high safeties, I think Will can do some things that maybe perhaps he didn't get to do regularly last year.
Steve Robertson on the Out of Bounds show. Let's go to the defensive side of the football. Who had the better camp, Travion Williams? I know they don't play the same position, but Travion Williams or John Lewis?
Well, we get such a limited amount of practice to see. A lot of times, we're out there, but only half of what we see is the varsity. But, talking to David Turner and talking to some of these guys out there, I think they feel good about both of those guys. I think John Lewis, really good chance that he's going to play starter reps. I think he and J.P. Purvis will rotate a good bit. But I think John Lewis is going to get the most significant action of his college career. And I think Trevion's a guy, too, that Travion might actually have a higher ceiling, but because of the fact he is a younger guy playing behind a very experienced group, I think he's going to get second-team reps. But he's going to play a significant amount too. But I think John Lewis can be a difference maker, and he needs to be. I mean, you lose Tyrus Wheat, was a guy that always impacted the play, even if he didn't make the tackle. And so there's some big shoes to fill there. But J.P. Purvis is a guy that's been here forever and a day that's kind of played all over the defense. The state has some good options there. But I think John's probably the guy you look at and say, hey, who could be a difference maker on this team that maybe wasn't last year? I think John's the first name on that list.
Are you buying Deontay Anderson? Hi.
I am, but situationally. You know what I mean? Like if you're in 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, it's an obvious pass rush situation. Yeah, you trot him out there as a 7 technique and let him chase the quarterback. I don't know that at this point that he is an every down player. Would he be in there on 3rd and short? Probably not, but I think you use him just kind of situationally, and David Turner will know how to use him, perhaps as good as anybody in the country. But, I think he plays a good bit, but I think it's more situational type football.
Oh, who else? Give me another name that may have a little buzz. And I don't mean, everybody knows Crumity and Bookie and Jet, Pickering, those guys, DeCamerion. Is there another name that could be in the 2 deep that is showing that he could play a lot as the year plays out, or people believe he's got a lot of potential?
Calvin Dinkins from Lake High School, and redshirted last year. And people forget this. I mean, he was kind of a late bloomer. He was committed early on. I think Southern Miss was involved with him, Arkansas State. And the next thing you know, it's Florida and Mississippi State, and it's Baylor, So he really blossomed as a senior and wanted to come here, so it wasn't a total surprise when State got involved with him. But, this is a big, robust, barrel-chested guy that's out here that just kind of raised in small-town Mississippi that kind of understand what it means to wear the maroon and white. So I think that's a guy, and he's been singled out several times by Arnett Matt Brock, the other defensive lineman mentioned him as the guy that's going to be a big part of things. And that's the guy that I think a lot of our fans maybe don't know a lot about. They're going to look up and say, hey, who's that number 35 out there? Well, it's Calvin Dinkins. And I do think that he is the guy that gives them the ability to save some wear and tear on that first-team group, because I don't think there's a tremendous amount of drop-off. I think when you look at his ceiling as a natural athlete, he might even be better than some of the guys in front of him. He just needs reps. But I think this is a guy that's going to be another Mississippi State, success story of, interior defensive lineman from small-town Mississippi that ends up having a chance to play pro football someday.
All right. I guess we'll leave it there. I could go special teams. You want to give me anything there?
Well, you know what you got on the return game. You got two All-Americans back. Yeah, with Xavier and Tulu. And, I think teams are going to do all they can to try to get touchbacks, just because, the more times you kick it, the more possibility there is of you making ESPN Sports Center. That's the last thing you want is your kicker on some other team's highlights. But you're going to see that a lot at Mississippi State this year. But, I'm eager to see what Crimmins does, the punter, the Australian guy. And Eric Mealy seems to really like him. And, they've kind of joked a little bit about, the changes in acclimation he's had to make, coming to America from Australia. But apparently he's done a great job. And I'm just curious to see how they handle this Australian rules thing. We've seen it with other teams. We've never seen it at Mississippi State.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it, man.
Yep.
Steve Robertson on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Bundle your car and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. We are the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone ESPN. That interview was brought to you by Bulldog Burger in Ridgeland, Starkville, and Tupelo. Enjoy the amazing burgers, the super delicious appetizers, including the fried pickles, Philly spring rolls. They've got these soft pretzel bites. They're fantastic. All at Bulldog Burger in Ridgeland, Starkville, and Tupelo. So we have two snoozers this weekend, but you should be excited. You get to watch your team play and new people and all that kind of stuff. And we'll see how that looks. Jason's got Ole Miss going 10-2 or 11-1 with maybe a blemish at Georgia. And I don't know.
ULM and Georgia. Those are the two in the air.
Okay. ULM and Georgia. But I figure Alabama at Alabama's nothing to it, right?
Yeah, no. I popped my popcorn over the weekend, so I'm good to go. No Tabasco though.
Oh.
Didn't do any Tabasco yet. I'm so skeptical.
Louisiana hot sauce on popcorn is amazing. Now, somebody texted earlier that they put some Jonesy Q ecstasy rub on their popcorn over the weekend, and that's amazing too. Jeff Jones dropped that on us, 3 years ago. We do the love rub all the time. You can't beat it. But that was kind of funny. And but anyway, Louisiana hot sauce on popcorn. That's a game day staple. You going to the Ole Miss game this weekend?
I'm not. I'm actually going to the beach this weekend.
You're not going to hottie toddy?
I'll hottie toddy from Orange Beach. 100%.
What about you didn't want to sit in the north end zone that Ross Bjork did?
Yeah, no, I did my time. I got to live it up. I had the pleasure of getting to sit in the sun for 11 a.m. games like, LSU and Arkansas and who was it? Like Coastal Carolina maybe one year, something like that.
Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, so I think I've done my time in the north end zone.
Okay. It's a good place to fry.
It's a rite of passage as a freshman.
Ross Bjork did an amazing job with that expansion.
It's all for the students, man. The student section used to be in the south end zone.
Yeah.
And it would always be covered.
Right.
But then they figured, well, we'll give that to the people who pay more money.
To the alums.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so, kind of makes sense. I mean, you will fry in those stands at an 11 a.m. game. That's
Y'all
for sure.
are a 1 o'clock kick, and Mississippi State's a 3 o'clock kick?
Yeah, 1 and 3.
Okay. Man, it'd be great if the weather would break again. Look up what Oxford looks like on Saturday, Jason, and we'll see from there. I can't believe you're not going to wear your Southern Marsh shirt and Ray-Bans in the Grove and go all in on chicken tenders. I'm very disappointed.
Hey, Oxford high of 87 on Saturday.
That's nice.
So
I mean, compared to 103, and especially if you've got any kind of shade, and man, if you can get a breeze, that could be for this time of year about as good as you can ask for.
Yes, Oxford and Starkville, partly cloudy. Starkville high of 89, Oxford high of 87.
Okay. Man, if the clouds come out,
this could be great.
We'll all be rejoicing.
Yeah.
If the man, it'd be great for our Ole Miss and Mississippi State friends and alums. If it is cloudy and it will stay under 90 and you can buy a little bit of a breeze, that's about as good as it gets. And that was brought to you by an ice cold Busch Light. Enjoy. And our Busch Light caller line, 601-707-3750, 601-707-3750, brought to you by an ice cold Busch Light. Make sure to get them in the cooler. Get all the ice around them. Let them get good and cold. And then go ahead and grab one. Reach way down in there in the cooler, in the bag cooler, and get you an ice cold Busch Light, and then either drink it out of the can or whatever cup you prefer. How about that? All right, what else do we have going on? Dak Prescott, we talked about Prescott calling plays over the weekend. He looked like the best offensive coordinator in the league. Does that surprise you? I mean, is there anything he doesn't do well? He wins a ton of games for a dysfunctional franchise, and he played offensive coordinator over the weekend, and they looked good. It's pretty good.
People on Twitter saying he's going to be Mississippi State head coach whenever he's done in the NFL. What do you think about that?
That will not happen because he's getting close to being worth $500 million.
Yeah.
And he will not take that stress or that grind even for, name your number, $6 to $8 million a year. So he's already worth a few $100 million. He's in this time in day and age where he could be worth $1 billion. Let's just say he's still young, Jason. He's got 7 to 9 years left. Dallas is about to re-sign him. He's got endorsements out the you-know-what. He'll easily get to 6, 7, 800 million. Nope. He's not going to take the Mississippi State job.
That's a shame. Shame for the Bulldogs.
Now, he may he and some other buddies may buy into a Formula One racing team. Or something like that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Those are the kind of opportunities that are going to come to Dak Prescott because of, one, he's playing at a time with insane money. And now, could I see him? Jason, I don't even know if he'll call games. He'll have made so much money. Would he be good as a color analyst? Yes. Did you see him and Tom Brady talking before the game?
Yeah.
What about those clean jeans Brady was wearing?
Brady, he's in his hot boy phase.
And he's dating a supermodel that's 10 years younger. Who knows where this is going. We are the Out of Bounds Show. We're brought to you by the Purple Mattress at any of the Miskelly Sleep stores.